So some of you might think it's very controversial to talk about whether a pastor is fake or not, and you might accuse me of judging because the Holy Scriptures say we shouldn't judge. Well, actually, Jesus said, "Judge righteous judgment," and he said, "By their fruits you shall know them." We know what is good and what is bad, and what is false and what is true, because of the fruits. So I am going to talk about some of the characteristics of false pastors, because I've actually come across them when I was still going to mainline churches or denominations. So just last night I was doing a bit of research when I was actually preparing these notes, and I came across the following quote whilst doing a search on the internet. It says, "While the Bible does not explicitly mention the term pastor, it emphasizes the importance of spiritual maturity and character for those in leadership roles. The office of pastor is a construct of evangelical Christianity, and there is no direct mention of pastors in the Bible." That's false, okay? There are several verses that mention pastors. Most of them are found in the book of Jeremiah. So it makes me wonder, which Bible are they talking about? This one that's they're referring to on Google. Which Bible is that? Because my Bible mentions the word pastor or pastor several times. And if you go to my video where I talk about where I ask the question and answer the question, can women, be pastors? Can a woman be a pastor or an elder? I basically read through all those verses, but in this video, I'm not going to read all of them. I'll just mention them. So there's Jeremiah 2 verse 8, Jeremiah 3:15, Jeremiah 10:21, Jeremiah 12 verse 10, Jeremiah 17 verse 16, Jeremiah 22:22, and then there's Jeremiah 23:2, Ephesians 4:11, Isaiah 56 verse 10, 11, which I'm going to read here, because remember we're talking about the traits to watch out for if you want to know whether your pastor is fake or not. So this one is Isaiah 56 10 and 11. "His watchmen are blind, they are all ignorant, they are all dumb dogs that cannot bark." So a watchman, a pastor is supposed to be a watchman. He's supposed to give you a warning when he sees the enemy coming into the church. It says, "But they do not, they're all dumb dogs, they cannot bark, sleeping, lying down, loving to slumber. Yea, they are greedy dogs, which can never have enough. And they are shepherds that cannot understand. They all look to their own way, everyone for his gain from his quarter." Yeah, greedy dogs. I've got lots of dogs. I've had lots of dogs, and that's very a very good way of God uses the illustration of dogs to when he's speaking about greediness, because that's what they are. Dogs are very greedy. Dogs will even fight over food. So one of the things I've noticed about this doesn't apply to all pastors. Okay, those who are fake, the false pastors, those are the ones I'm talking about. And so just staying on the issue of greediness, is that you find some pastors, they will not tell the truth in their churches, or they will not tell their congregants the truth, because they're scared that if they start going against what the leadership of the church or the denomination says, then they'll lose their jobs. So yeah, a very difficult situation or position to be in. But at the end of the day, if you're a pastor, you're supposed to preach the gospel, and the gospel basically is like a two-edged sword. You're supposed to cut. So if you're not telling the truth as a pastor, because you're worried that you're going to be fired, then you need to decide whether you're going to to do what God has said you should do. You need to decide whether you're going to stay or go. But if you stay and then you lie to your congregants, and then they are lost, just remember that their blood is on your hands. So it will be your fault if they get lost. So if your pastor believes and teaches that God is a Trinity, then he's misleading you, okay? There's no such thing as a Trinity in the Holy Scriptures. Even the word itself, Trinity, does not appear in the Holy Scriptures. I know some of you will get angry, and especially those who are pastors, when you see this video and you hear what I've got to say, you'll start saying that I don't know what I'm talking about. I'm not a pastor, or I don't have a degree. Just remember, Jesus didn't have a degree either, and the apostles and the disciples didn't have degrees. All you need to do as a Christian is to spend time with Christ in reading His holy word and praying, and being in communication with Him all the time. So, Trinity doctrine is Roman Catholic. It's not found in the Holy Scriptures. Okay, that is Roman Catholic. So if you're not Roman Catholic and you're teaching your church members that God is a Trinity, then you're misleading them. And I'll say to those who have pastors who are preaching such nonsense that you don't listen to them, and you should actually basically challenge them, and tell them that they are wrong, and to prove to you from the Holy Scriptures where it says that there are three gods, that we worship three gods as Christians. That's nonsense. Okay, if your pastor has taken part in spiritual formation classes which originated with Ignatius Loyola, the founder of the Jesuit order, and by the way, spiritual formation classes actually lead to demon possession, but maybe I'll cover that some other time in another video, some other time. Okay, if your pastor is taking part in spiritual formation classes, then your pastor is false. Okay, there is no spiritual formation in the Bible. Okay, why are we doing all these new things, even the Alpha Course and stuff like that? We don't need that. Pastors that promote the Alpha Course instead of teaching you to follow the teachings found in God's word, they are blind, and if you are led by a blind person, you will fall into a ditch. If your pastor is using the NIV, which some humorists call the New International Perversion, the Good News Bible, so-called, the RSV, ASV, any of these modern Bibles which were printed after 1890, and basically translated from Catholic manuscripts such as the Codex Vaticanus and Codex Sinaiticus, instead of the received text that was used by the Reformers when they're translating the Geneva Bible and the King James Bible, then that pastor is false or he's blind. Okay, don't be led by someone who's blind. If you know more than your pastor does, then I would say you shouldn't be listening to what that pastor says. Okay, if your pastor is a woman, she's not a pastor. There's no such thing as a woman pastor or a female elder in the Bible. If your pastor constantly preaches about love and smooth things and about unification with other churches, such as being part of the World Council of Churches, which was an organization that was started by the Catholic Church, especially, and also if he also promotes uniting with the Roman Catholic Church, then that is a false pastor. If your pastor does not tell you to forsake sin, but basically tells you, come as you are and stay as you are, that pastor is not, is a false pastor. Okay, the pastor who really wants you to be saved should be telling you to obey all God's commandments. That includes the Sabbath commandment. By the way, there are lots of pastors out there in the Sunday keeping churches who know the truth about the Sabbath, but they don't tell their church members. You know why? Because they don't want to stir things up. They don't want to rock the boat. Once again, if you are a pastor and you're doing that, you're a coward. Okay, you need to tell your church members the truth. You should be worried more about the salvation of your church members than you are about money. So if your pastor believes in the climate change hoax and is actually promoting that when he's preaching, or in the alphabet agenda, and not only believed in this pandemic, which resulted in the stripping of our God-given rights, if he did all those things and also got the poke and encouraged you to do the same, then that is a fake pastor. There's nowhere in the Holy Scriptures where it says we should get the poke. If your pastor doesn't like being questioned by church members, but likes to dominate his congregants and to exercise kingly power over them, then he's a false pastor. Being a pastor does not mean you should dominate others. You are basically in that position to feed God's flock. Okay, you're not there to be a king over those church members that are in your denomination. If your pastor says the Pope is a nice guy rather than calling him the Antichrist or man of sin, then he is misleading you, and you should not listen to any word he says. If your pastor promotes Christmas and Easter, both of which are pagan holidays, rather than telling you to keep God's commandments, then he's misleading you. There's actually a lot of that going on, by the way. A lot of Christians basically observing all these pagan holidays. Some are going even as far as celebrating Halloween, which is actually satanic. is said to be one of the highest, or the most, one of the most unholy days of the year that are observed by Satanists, and Christians are actually partaking in that, and some are even taking part in Valentine's Day and stuff like that, observing things that are not in the Holy Scriptures, yet ignoring the things that we've been told to observe, such as keeping the Sabbath, and keeping all of God's commandments. If your pastor is one of those who promote such things, then you're being led by a false pastor. Our real and true pastor is Jesus Christ, because there's that text that says that Jesus. The true is the true shepherd, and he dies for the sheep, whereas the false shepherd runs away because he's scared. So yeah. So for those who might be saying, yeah, this is going on in my church, what can I do? Well, just find like-minded people like you and start your own small groups and worship in small groups, even at home, because God can hear you even if you worship under a tree in twos or threes. A church is not a denomination, and a church is not a building. A church is made up of individuals who keep God's commandments. And it's not about numbers. It can be in twos or threes. So yeah, so watch out, because there are even so-called pastors out there, and I've actually had experiences of meeting them when I was in the SDA church. These Jesuit pastors who pretend like they are Protestants when they are not, and you can tell who they are because they always speak against the fundamental beliefs of your church. Because they want you to discard those beliefs and basically believe and follow the beliefs of the Catholic Church, such as the Trinity. I'm going to be talking about the Trinity at every opportunity, because that is a Roman Catholic false doctrine. Yeah. So it's very easy to tell who's genuine and who's not. Because you can tell by the fruits. If a pastor is encouraging you to remain in sin, even pastors maybe won't even necessarily they omit to tell their church members, those who are cohabiting, that cohabiting is a sin. That's a false pastor. A false pastor should be basically giving you good counsel and advice and preaching the gospel without watering it down. So, yeah, I don't know. Maybe some of you will get angry with me for saying all that, but yeah, you don't. Christianity is not a popularity contest. I'm not doing this to be popular. I'm just doing this to do my part in sharing the truth with others, that they may be saved. Yeah, and if it offends you, then maybe you shouldn't be watching the video in the first place. But yeah, salvation is not. It's not. Jesus said we should take up our crosses daily. If it feels easy for you, if being a Christian feels easy for you, then I'll suggest that there are some things that you need to look at in terms of what is it that I need to give up so I can be more Christ-like. Yeah, but let me not ramble on. I'll just stop there.